Okay, timing is everything in this game. We're broadcasting live. The draw is now underway for the Champions League. It's the last 8, of course. Who's going to get who and who is first out? Now, Martin O'Neill and Simon are alongside Julien Laurens. Julien, Real Madrid have just come out the hat first. Real Madrid. So we are about to find out who draws them. Real Madrid, the first name out there is an Opala. You're doing the draw, Simon. Patrick Kluivert.
Yeah. Here we go.
Chelsea. And Real Madrid will meet Chelsea.
Oh, not done in 5
It is Real Madrid against Chelsea. Julien, what do you think? How will Graham Potter be feeling?
Well, that's a hell of a tie. It's the revenge, of course, of the quarterfinals of last season. That incredible double game where Real Madrid won 3-1, if you remember, at Stamford Bridge first with that Karim Benzema incredible hat-trick again. Back-to-back hat-tricks after the one against PSG. And then, obviously, Real Madrid having a big scare in the second leg against at home against Chelsea, who were 3-0 up. Before taking it to extra time and winning in extra time.
Next out the hat, Martin, Inter Milan going very well. We know the runners and riders in there, like sort of Lukaku in there, Edin Dzeko, of course, at Inter Milan. Who are they going to draw? Inter Milan have come out of the hat and they will play Benfica. So Manchester City still in there, Julien. Inter Milan, Benfica, who would you take to go through from that?
Yeah, Javier Zanetti, I think would be happy, but we say Benfica, a very dangerous team, play really well, especially with the second leg in Portugal, in Lisbon. I think I would fancy Benfica slightly favourite in that one.
Yeah, Manchester City still to come out. So 4 left in there. And we're still to find out who Manchester City have got. Chelsea are already drawn. They have drawn Real Madrid. Now we will find out. Manchester City have just been drawn. Manchester City drawn. I can see my old mate Simon Heggie in there. Works for the media department, watching on. Of course, at the draw, as it's been drawn, Patrick Kluivert is about to reveal who Manchester City will play in the last 8.
Bayern Munich.
And they will play Bayern Munich. Oof. So what a tie that is for Pep Guardiola. One time of Bayern Munich, now of Manchester City.
Incredible.
Who goes through in that one? Julien, that is a tough draw, isn't it?
Tough.
They're all tough.
Yeah, they're all tough, but 2 of the favourites, of course, in there. I mean, you have to go 50-50, especially with the second leg in Munich, I think.
Yeah, Manchester City have drawn Bayern Munich. So that means we know now that coming out the hat next are bound to be Napoli. It's AC Milan, but we know who they're going to draw, and they will draw Napoli. Unless I'm mistaken, unless there's been some kind of huge mess up, Patrick Kluivert will produce Napoli, and that's indeed what's happened. So just to recap, this is the Champions League quarter-final draw as it's just been drawn in the last few moments. The 8 teams went into the hat and they came out like this. Real Madrid will play Chelsea. Inter Milan will meet Benfica. Manchester City will meet Bayern Munich, and AC Milan will play Napoli. Those are the ties. Martin, what do you think? What chance do you give Chelsea? What chance do you give Manchester City?
Right, Manchester City will be... if I'd been Manchester City or Chelsea, I'd love to have taken any of the 2 Milan teams. And I think AC Milan are not the side that they were last season at all.
Definitely.
They look so ordinary, I must admit, at this minute. And I'm not so sure that Inter are all that fantastic either. But like everything else, it's the quarter-final and you can get yourself razzed for the games. Yeah. Manchester City must be... It's a great tie. It's a fantastic tie
against Bayern.
For the
It's a really fantastic tie for them. It's one that I think that Pep would probably want to have avoided, I must admit. But listen, it's there. Chelsea, remarkably, actually, you just mentioned Simon Graham Potter. You just mentioned, and I'd rather, because it's your job, you mentioned it here. But Chelsea showed something in that game, and that was like a kind of a turnaround. Listen, they're in the quarterfinals. They would have been delighted with that there a month ago. So they're in the quarterfinals. Take your chance.
It could be argued, Simon, that the English clubs Chelsea and Manchester City have got the toughest draws.
Oh, I think that's probably right. Although I think Man City against Napoli would have been a tough game as well.
Yeah.
I think that ultimately Man City against Bayern Munich is what it is. They've got to beat everybody. So I suppose if they've drawn one of the lesser sides and got an adverse result, people might have been again on Pep's back. If he loses against Bayern Munich, people will give him some form of pass. You look at Chelsea. I was listening to watching a social media grab yesterday, which Martin refers to, which we were speaking about in the break, which was Potter doing a fans conference. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he talks to the audience and the compare hands him a mic and says, "What do you want to say to the fans?" And he says, "Listen, and I want to thank the fans for their support and their patience as we go on this new project. I'm looking forward to the draw, and let's make sure we win the effing Champions League. Here you go, son. It's on you now.
Okay.
And the draw for the semi-finals were already made as well. It's the full draw, and the winner, Chelsea and Manchester City, can face each other in the semi-final. The semi-final will be the winner of the Real Madrid-Chelsea game against Manchester City, Bayern winner, which means that you will have Napoli, Milan, Inter, Benfica as well, potentially in the final of the Champions League.
Can Cancelo play for Man City? He's on loan. Sorry. Can he play for Bayern Munich? He's on loan
That's
for
a
Man
very
City.
good point.
And you've got Leroy Sané there as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't think, unless I was not told, but I don't think there is a clause in the loan, in the contract to say that, like we see in the Premier League, for example, where you can't play against your parent club.
They can play, he can play. He can play for Bayern Munich against Manchester City. It's a good point though, Simon. So now we know. Julian, I'll get back to you for further reaction. If you just tuned in, we're live on talkSPORT. Real Madrid have been drawn against Chelsea. It's the Champions League quarterfinal draw that has just been made. Real Madrid will play Chelsea. Inter Milan will play Benfica. Manchester City will play Bayern Munich. Pep Guardiola up against the club that he used to manage. And AC Milan will play Napoli. And as Julian rightly pointed out, the semi-final draw has been made as well. So the winner of Milan-Napoli will play the winner of Inter Milan-Benfica. And the winner of Real Madrid-Chelsea will play the winner of Manchester City-Bayern Munich. And Julian, you were quick to say it. If Chelsea find a way of getting rid of Real Madrid and City find a way of getting rid of Bayern Munich, it's an all-England semi-final.
Yeah, it will be again, and it will be make, of course, of the Champions League final that Thomas Tuchel and Chelsea won 2 seasons ago, of course, against Pep Guardiola and Manchester City. It would be incredible, and this is the toughest draw, as we've been saying, for English clubs for the quarterfinals. It's the toughest draw as well in the semi-final, because you could have faced an AC Milan or an Inter Milan, like we've been saying, or Benfica. Now you'll have 2 huge rounds in a row, quarterfinals and semi-final for the English clubs, and same for Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. It's a terrible draw for them as well.
Sure thing. I mean, Martin, you can only beat what's in front of you, and that's exactly what you did in that great run all the way to UEFA Cup final against Mourinho's Porto when you were with Celtic. I mean, along the way, you no doubt thought, oh God, how did we draw them? If I remember rightly, you had Boa Vista just before you took on
Vista
Porto.
and Liverpool in the quarterfinals.
And Liverpool
in the quarterfinals. Yeah, you're right about that. You can only do that. But I mean, I think if you're going into the draw and you think there's 3 or 4 sides that you think you have a chance of getting, and you don't get any of them, my word, it's a disappointment.
Yeah. Simon, I'm not sure. If you're a Chelsea fan this morning and because of recent results, you've got a bit more faith than you might have had in Graham Potter. Maybe. You've got to go into it with optimism against Real Madrid.
Maybe
Chelsea have the players who can damage Madrid.
Maybe. I mean, they do, and they had them last year. And the difference in this tie from last year is that Chelsea play at home second this time round, so they don't get to choke on their lines in the first and have to go, because in the second game at the Bernabeu they battered Real Madrid for the bulk of the game. I can't really see much past Real Madrid. And if Graham Potter is waxing lyrical to his audience yesterday, he couldn't have wanted for a worse set of draws, because winning the effing Champions League is going to be effing hard on the back of that.
And the same goes for Manchester City. I mean, you can only play what's in front of you, and Bayern Munich are in front of them. But I think City fans will relish the opportunity and the challenge here. Yeah,
I saw the 2 PSG Bayern games in the last 16, and Bayern won and were superior over the 2 legs, but they were not outstanding. I think they can play much better than that. There was pressure around Nagelsmann. Before that, they're in the title race with Dortmund, where usually at this time of the year they were clear in the Bundesliga as well. So they haven't been performing as well. They haven't been as impressive as they were in previous seasons, for example. I think they are beatable from a Manchester City point of view. I think City, if they play at their best, can definitely beat them. I think I would put City slightly favourite in the game.
They're favourites to win it. The whole to win this game or to win the whole thing.
When you saw them against Leipzig the other day and Haaland in that kind of form, of course, I think.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with Julian. I think that they are favourites to do it because they've just got a splendid side. There's no question about that there, and they feel as if that there are goals there for them. And we've been discussing this problem of Crystal Palace and teams like this year. If you don't get somebody who can put the ball in the net,
that's right,
you do have a problem in this game.
That's a good point, Martin. I wonder if it's Italy's time to provide us with a club that's going to go all the way and win it. Inter Milan and the AC Milan there, Napoli have been doing brilliantly in Italy this season. But Julian quite rightly pointed out the semi-final draw might see an all-England affair. The winners of Chelsea, Real Madrid against the winners of Bayern Munich, Manchester City. The winner of the other semi-final might see, well, we might see an all-Milan affair because it's Milan-Napoli, the winner of that taking on the winner of Inter against Benfica. Yeah. So on one hand, we might have an all-England semi-final. We might have an all-Milan one.
Yeah, that's true. Napoli have been splendid this season, absolutely fantastic. But you're in now to 2 games, and despite what I said about Inter Milan and AC, and I would have taken any of those 2 teams if I was Manchester City or Chelsea or Bayern Munich. I would have taken those teams. Listen, it is tough. You're in the quarter-final of the competition, but Napoli will have a look at this here and think they can beat these sides.
Yeah. Of course, some of the big guns who didn't make it, sorry to touch on this, Julien, because this is his club, Martin. Paris Saint-Germain, they went out at the hands of Bayern Munich, of course, and now no longer in it. We were talking off air about Nasser Al-Khelaifi, who Simon and I now know, having met him in Qatar, the chairman of Paris Saint-Germain. Where is their thinking this morning, Julien, looking at this draw from afar? Khelaifi must be sick. PSG wanted so much to be in there, wanted so much to go all the way and win the thing. Are they ever going to do it?
It's a good question. They've been chasing it for 11 years now, spent a lot of money on it, going in the route of trying to sign the biggest names and the biggest players in the world instead of maybe building a squad that at the end would be good enough in quality and quantity to win you the Champions League. Instead, it's been Beckham, Ibrahimovic, Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, etc., which is great, but it showed the limits as well in terms of solidity and team spirit, the group, etc. And I think they will see this. Benfica beat them to top their group on goal difference. At the time, Benfica then played Bruges, and now Inter Milan, when PSG had to face Bayern Munich with the second leg in Germany, and had they topped their group, maybe the whole things would have been different. They just didn't help themselves, and it's another failure this season. And I think they will change this kind of policy and trajectory in the summer to go for younger players, more French players, instead of going for the bling names.
For going for the big stars.
Yeah.
What about Neymar? What's the latest on him at the moment, Julien? We know he's not going to feature from now until probably the end of the season. Is he going to stay there? Is he going to move? What do you know? What's the latest?
He started his rehab for his ankle injury that, you're right, is ruling him out for the whole season, really. PSG tried to sell him last summer. They're going to try again this summer. He doesn't want to leave. He's under contract until 2027 and he earns 35 million a year. So good luck to finding a club.
How can you get buying that, Martin? 35 million a year.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but we know there was a meeting between Nasser Al-Khelaifi and Todd Boehly at Chelsea to talk about Neymar, amongst other things. But maybe Chelsea could be interested in signing him like they were last summer.
May I ask you a point, Julien? Right. You know that you're going to be signing Messi. You've already got Neymar and you've got Mbappe. And you know that they're capable of creating things for you, which is what you want in the team. Do you feel that that Paris Saint-Germain didn't strengthen defensively, knowing that they're actually going to not do a great deal for you defensively? That I never thought that in the last 3 or 4 years that Paris Saint-Germain have been strong defensively.
No, you're right. But you could have signed Beckenbauer and you could have signed, Bobby Moore, anybody. I don't think that defense would have been solid because it's too unbalanced. You can't have 3 not defending and the other 8 just defending against teams of this caliber now.
Okay, you're probably right. But I wouldn't have minded having that choice as a manager. I really wouldn't have minded. I would have got the biggest brutes in to defend if I felt that I got those 3 playing in front of me. Seriously, I would have midfield players who may not have even been able to deal with the ball, but just could run and cover all over the ground.
But Martin, I know what you're saying there. That's what you did at Celtic. You built a Celtic team that were giants at the back. Bobo Baldi, Johan Mialbi. Yeah. Good defenders who knew how to defend.
That's your job. You have to defend first. You have to be able to do that. Yeah. And that's the point. And then if you have got players who can play, the more often, as the old man Brian Clough would have said, the more often you can give it to the players who can play, the better chance you have.
Sure.
But as a manager, would you have accepted that neither of your front 3 would defend in a game? That they would not trail back, that they would not defend, that they would not run, and then make your team so unbalanced? Would you have accepted that?
The only thing I would have asked the 3 front men to do was the minute that they've lost the ball is to drop into a defensive position, not to be racing, just drop into a defensive position so that when the opposition have the ball, at least they see a man in front and they have to confront that man. He doesn't have to make a tackle. You wouldn't see too many tackles from Neymar, absolutely. But the ability that they possess to be able to create something for you, I thought that would have been the what shall I call the real icing, that thing. It never probably works, as it proved it probably hasn't worked.
For sure.
But I wouldn't have minded. But that's the only thing I would have asked the three of them to do.
Alas for Julien, his beloved PSG were not in the draw that we have just seen, and it came out like this. The quarterfinal draw for the Champions League sees Real Madrid play Chelsea, Inter Milan will play Benfica, Manchester City will play Bayern Munich, and AC Milan meet Napoli. Some cracking ties there.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.